think now everyone is here.
It's resonating. Good morning, Banerjee sir.
Good morning, Vinita. Good morning, Dr. Archana Sharma.
And good morning, Mr. Sudhanshu Mani.
Good morning. Good
And
morning. How are
I
you
cannot.
doing?
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Sudhanshu ji.
Good morning. Good morning. Namaste.
Shashi ma'am, how are you?
Very good and a very good morning to you.
It's a pleasure to see you all, really.
Pleasure and a very good morning to Sudhanshu ji. So,
Good morning.
I don't really call him Sudhanshu Bhaiya, so I will stick to that. And what a pleasure. It's an honor to have you with us. Thank you. Yeah.
My pleasure. My pleasure, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Namaskar from Minambika, from Vidyagan.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, Archana ji.
Hello. Hello. How are you?
Shashi ma'am, how are you? I'm fine. Thank you so much, Archana ji.
Happy to see you, Minambika. A very good morning and such a pleasure to see you there.
I'll just
Yes.
take 1 minute before we
Vanity,
go.
a very good morning and thanks.
There's some problem with the audio or something?
Is there?
No, probably with my audio might be.
You are absolutely distinctly clear. I can hear you. Yes. I don't know about the others.
Teachers have a loud voice. That is the only thing we have.
So we are going to be live in another 30 seconds. A very quick, brief. This session is obviously of LifeLab Plus session, where the host school is Vidyagan this time, and this all collaboration is possible because because LifeLab Plus is doing a lot across India, across world, and so I thought, why not SNS should also partner with LifeLab. So many thanks to Archana ji and Sashi ma'am for making it possible. And as Sashi ma'am, just for 10 seconds, Mr. Sudhanshu Mani was saying if there is a university also with HCL, I would love to go. So we will take him through LifeLab Plus or carry us whatever way in physical presence when Archana ji comes during her October visit.
Thank you.
Over to you, Gulfam sir. You can start. It's 11 o'clock.
I, Nishtha, and I, Devika, are gratified to welcome you all to this splendid and fascinating morning, enthroned with the presence of our distinguished guest, Dr. Archana Sharma, Principal Scientist CERN, Mr. Sudhanshu Mani, ex-Indian Railway Officer, the Director of Vidyagan Schools, Mr. Bishwajit Banerjee, CEO, Shivnada Schools, Colonel Gopal Karunakaran, Director of Education, Shivnada School, Mrs. Shashi Banerjee, our own principal, Mrs. Minambika Menon, along with Mrs. Vinita Sharan, and a very delightful audience. Books are my friends. Books are my therapist. Books are my soulmates. Books are the places where I hide when I'm upset. Books are my life. Discovery is best with the words. It is one of the most beautiful explanations of the innate human curiosity, to be able to rule up, to be able to fathom what not from this limited yet boundless 26 alphabets. You all must have read at least a single book in your life, and you well know its effects on your mind. Hence, we say books are the necessities that are must in one's intelligence and intellect. They shape your thoughts and ignite your mind. Books impart knowledge and raise the hunger to dive in the sea of knowledge. Elucidating, all the renowned people and the geniuses were fond of reading books. It could be any type of book: fantasy, biography, philosophy, educational, mysterious, historical, or logical. If you don't read books, you are still unaware of the unimaginable, unbelievable, and implausible beauty and the charm that books hold with them. So today, we gather here for an amazingly wonderful and enlightening session by books. To make the session yet more momentous, we have some highly great and respected personalities. To start on, we would like to present you to one of the most devoted and meticulous personalities, Mr. Bishwajit Banerjee, our dear Director of Vidyagan Schools. Sir, I feel privileged to have got the opportunity to invite you to give a beautiful beginning to this gathering.
So, good morning, everyone. And Nishta have already put me in a spot saying that I have to give a good beginning. Okay. So, as teachers, we can only speak, but we cannot guarantee how good it will be. Only yesterday, I came to know that this session is being organized yesterday late evening. And I do not claim myself to be a very avid reader, but at the same time, the importance of reading, no one can take it away. And I was thinking on it that probably books are the windows into the past. And I can give you one or two very concrete examples that everyone knows Saint Kabir. He was illiterate. But whatever he spoke, this has a lot of wisdom. And one of his disciples, he collected whatever he said, it was collected in form of a book called probably Bijak, if I remember it correctly. And everyone knows what are these writings. Imagine if his disciple would have not put all this together, then we would have lost of this huge treasure of wisdom. So this is one probably concrete example where I will say documentation, and it is probably the easiest and the most simplest way to document something. And at that time, probably it was in ancient time, it was written on palm leaf, on the bark of a tree. It started with that, and definitely with the advent of technology, now we have got other means to document things, whether it is in form of an audio book and video book. But going back to that example, if Kabir's work was not being taken by his disciple, then what would have happened? So also for anything, another example I can give, that the work which is being done at CERN from past few decades, the progression which has happened, it needs to be documented somewhere. So, and that documentation probably when the technology was not that good, it can be in form of books in the ancient times. And obviously with the advent of technology, that all keeps on changing. So to know the history or culture of a civilization, what happened in the past, all that it has to come in form of books only. So books are that important in form of, I will say, documentation. Obviously, the way the information is being kept now, that has changed. And also that no one can deny the benefits of reading books. As I said, I do not claim that I read a lot, but definitely one should read. And as a student, you read, when you read, what are the benefits you get, or anyone, even as an adult, that it improves your concentration and focus. It's a kind of entertainment. It improves your language skills. Your sleep improves. So there are multiple benefits of book reading. So I will say that each one of us should have a habit of devoting some time to reading every day, and definitely there are multiple benefits of it. So with these few words, I think all of us are looking forward to the engaging session by Dr. Archana Sharma, who is almost now a family member to the foundation, and Mr. Sudhanshu Mani. So on behalf of everyone, if I'm allowed, I invite them to start the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
May I just request Sasi ma'am to speak on behalf of Karnal Gopal? He is in session, he is right on stage, he will join later. He said that he will be coming with Sasi ma'am. So over to you, Sasi ma'am, so that after that we can start.
Thank you, Vinita. And once again, thank you for the series of conversations. And I would like to, I'm sure Mr. Mani, who's joined this session, but we would look forward to having him on many more such sessions. Dr. Sharma has been with us for right from the beginning, I would say, and Lifelab, which has been leading us into these conversations. And today, when we are talking about books, just want to share with you, Colonel Gopal is doing a session for about 850 of our educators on a whole lot of other things, but reading as a culture. I simply wish to say that we look forward to hearing more from you. There is enough that is being spoken about books which are minds alive in conversation, really, for across ages, blurring all divisions of time and domain. But today, Mr. Banerjee, with your team, with everyone else, we, on behalf of the Shiv Nadar School, are grateful that we are part of this, and we would like to sit back and listen to our wonderful, I'm sure, voracious leaders. But what is very, very special about both our speakers is they are doers, they are dream catchers and dream doers. And to an extent that the whole world knows about it, but we'll hear from them. So I join you in welcoming them. Over to you, Vinita. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So students, you can start. Nista?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your words. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. So now I feel elated introducing you to our chief guest, who is a woman of virtue and simplicity. She is a living inspiration to the young ones. If one takes a closer look at her achievements, they delineate her perseverance, hard work, pioneering spirit, and willingness, which were undoubtedly the ladders to her successful destination. She is a phenomena in physics herself. Her contribution and tremendous career in physics extends over 3 decades. She currently works as a senior staff scientist at the CERN laboratory in Geneva, Switzerland, mainly working on instrumentation, especially gaseous detectors. Professor Sharma is the author and co-author of over 800 publications and is invited regularly for keynote talks in international conferences and public addresses in various science and technology events. The very recent book of her, India's Science Geniuses and the Problems They Are Solving, along with the combined efforts of the co-authors Spurti Raman, has been very inspiring to the Indian youth. She is none other than Dr. Archana Sharma. Ma'am, it would be an absolute pleasure to hear from you about your experiences with the book and the joy you find while reading them.
Thank you, Nishta. Thank you very much for the generous introduction. And I'm humbled at being in this august panel here, particularly also with our co-guest Sudhanshu Maniji, who has been trailing in trains ahead like a blaze that's going on in the country. So I'm here also to learn, and always humbled being at Shiv Nadar schools, because this is a place which is close to my heart. I mean, I come from Western UP, so it's also my homeland, so to speak. Having been to all campuses in Vidyagyan as well as in the Noida campuses, it gives me a great pleasure to be here. So perhaps before diving into the book, let's hear also from Vinita ji and from Sudhanshu ji.
May I request Nista to, because I was really thrilled when you shared a few lines about Sudhanshu ji. So would you like to speak about Sudhanshu ji, Nista? Please go ahead.
My friend Deepika is here to share about herself.
Sudhanshu, the kids have done a lot of research on you. So night when I was sitting with them, late night, I was so thrilled what they have written. Over to you, Nista.
There comes a point in your life when you stop reading other people's books and write your own. Said by Albert Einstein. We have a host for the session, Mr. Sudhanshu Mani, a famous personality known as the Train Man of India. Sudhanshu Mani acts in the apex grade of Government of India from the Indian Railways Service of Mechanical Engineering as General Manager. I am extremely beholden to welcome him to this session amidst us today. He led the Train 18 Vande Bharat Express project, the first ever indigenous semi-high-speed train of India, from concept to delivery. His journey in leading and completing this unique project is recounted in his bestseller book, My Train 18 Story. He has authored 6 more books, including 4 on a subject of his special passion, art and railways, one each on environment and greenery, and coalition of the works of Ghalib and Shakespeare. Sir, we would be really thrilled if you share your experience from pioneering the Indian Railways to your inclination towards books and literature.
Uh, do I have to speak now or?
Would love to have 2 lines from you, sir, before you start moderating, Archanaji, and you start giving your views also. Side by side. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Vinita ji, Vidya Gyan Institutions and Shiv Nadar School for affording me this opportunity to interview my friend and guide in certain respects, Dr. Archana Sharma. And today we'll be talking mainly about science. I will put in a bit about engineering because I'm an engineer. And I look forward to talking to her. Thank you.
So, children, can we start the conversation? Nishta?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
So, over to you, Sudhanshuji. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So friends and students, children, India has a long history and legacy of scientific excellence. It is arguably near the top countries in the field of scientific research. With a view to inspiring young minds towards scientific research and quests, Dr. Archana Sharma has earlier co-authored the book Noble Dreams of India by detailing the outstanding scientific work by Indian scientists, especially in physics, chemistry, and medicine, juxtaposing the content with the last 2 decades of Nobels in these fields for discerning readers to see for themselves that Indian scientists were not far away. All this to highlight the goodness, the excitement of STEM research career, to push the readers, fun listeners, to think of the potential and the limitless world of science to make the world a better place. I told you I'm an engineer, so I will begin with that, and I'll tell you why. Because engineering is a great profession. And there is this great liability of engineer compared to men of other professions that his works are out in the open. I'm borrowing these words from President Hoover of the US. An engineer cannot bury his mistakes in the grave like the doctors. He cannot argue them in thin air or blame the judge like the lawyers. He just cannot deny it. Gordon Lindsay Glegg also said that a scientist can discover a new star, but he cannot make one. He would have to ask an engineer to do it. That was a bit of a fun, but engineering products require some passion and commitment, but scientific research is far beyond the engineering R&D. It's not about putting together the knowledge and technology to design a product. It is about new knowledge itself, encompassing the uncertainty and the excitement of discovering something new. Science, as you know, is the study of physical world. And it is followed by engineering, which applies scientific knowledge to design processes, structures, products, and what have you. But in any case, both must have a good grasp of science, mathematics, and technology, although they are separate entities who belong to each other. Without science, there would be no engineering. So the scientist sits on a higher pedestal, as it's not chicken and egg rigmarole. If there was no science, there would be no engineering. Ashley Montague has said that science has proof without certainty. Creationists have certainty without proof. So let me frame my first question, because it's also about the scientific tradition of India in this book. I'm also reminded of what the poet Ramdhari Singh Dinkar has said, that lo atit se utna hi jitna poshak hai, jeerna sheerna ka moh mrityu ka hi dyotak hai. It's good to know your glorious past, but it is the present or the near present, say the last century or so, which is of absolute importance. So I'll begin, Dr. Archana, with the hackneyed but quintessential question all the same. Why did you decide to embark on this book? You have published Nobel Dreams of India earlier, as I said, which where you picked up Nobel laureates and their works in the last 20 years and works of Indians in those areas. So what's new in this book, Dr. Archana?
Thank you. Thank you very much for this question. And as you rightly said, that of course we have a big tradition of science in India. We have had amazing scientists as well in India. Documentation was also highlighted in by one of the teachers earlier as well, because documentation is extremely important on what we can be proud of our heritage in science in the country. Now, the pace of development in science, technology, innovation all over the world has accelerated. It's exponential at the moment. And in fact, over the last 30 years that I have been actively engaged at CERN in watching how scientific discoveries are made and how they distill into the curricula in the schools. That was the, let's say, the revelation for me, because 2 years after the Higgs discovery at CERN, it was being taught in schools here to the children I know and even included. So it gave me some thoughts on how curriculums are designed, and we as scientists, or the senior scientists, so to speak, are connected with our countries. First of all, with our countries, with the children in our countries, and the responsibility that lies on us to add to the aspirational value of learning about science. Because children are hungry to learn, teachers are hungry to teach, and we need to be able to showcase everything that's going on, not only in India, but around the world as well. Personally, I have been involved during the 90s, building detectors in the early noughties, and then in the last decade, conceiving a detector, conceptualizing it, and then installing and commissioning it in the last 10 years. So the journey somehow, of course, a posteriori tells me about the excitement of dreaming about a detector, but a detector is a tool. What is it dreaming? Like you said, it's an engineering tool. But what is the science behind it, and why are we looking for it? So when the Higgs discovery was made in 2012, personally, I was amazed at the marathon effort, the collaborative effort all over the world that came together, thousands of physicists who came together, scientists, engineers, technicians, funding agents, administrators, managers who came together. Only then it was possible. So now let's look at India. What's special? First of all, it's my country. Second, we are the largest young student population in the world. So what do we have in our hands? We have the power to connect to big science. We have the power to make a social impact. And the students who are sitting right now in the classrooms are the one who will be solving the climate crisis. And I think democratization of this knowledge is extremely important. That's what led me and a co-author of mine who did the Nobel Dreams of India, Sujata Vijay Krishna. And for this particular book, India Science Geniuses as well, Spurti Raman helped me to create a book that will excite the students. I can connect to any science in the world, and I can also be part of this revolution of sustained development goals on the planet. That's exactly what helped me decide on embarking for this book. Yeah.
Okay, so let's put some nitty-gritty about the book away. So how did you go about organizing and selecting the geniuses for the book? And so you have categorized them again, the 3 subjects of your previous book: physics, chemistry, and biology. So give us some reason as to why these three areas and how did you go about selecting the geniuses?
All right. So first of all, I mean, let's take an example of building a house. So a house is an integral part, or your train, for example, even. So you needed to have draftsmen drawing the engineering drawings for production. You needed industries who wanted to work together. You needed scientists and physicists who gave you perhaps the simulations of how it will work, how it will not work, what are the speeds that it can go, what are the, the balances and checks that needed to be done. So of course, it is very artificial to break all that into three subjects: physics, chemistry, and biology. However, we need to make a base. And for making a base at the school level, also we need to categorize the teaching. It's an ease of operations, if I can say so, of creating or curating the knowledge, rather, I would say. It's certainly connecting to the stellar work that's going on in the country. But if we were to mix up everything and then just pick up, a scientist, and then that's also another way of doing it. I mean, there's nothing wrong about it. But I personally felt that if I were in school and I was studying physics and chemistry and biology, it would be easier for me to relate directly with the scientist or the genius, if I can say so, who has been showcased in the book. Now, talking about geniuses, if you were to go to a beautiful beach in India and you were to say, beautiful beach of India, it doesn't mean that other beaches are bad. Or if you were to go to a heritage building, you would say, beautiful heritage building of India. It doesn't mean that other heritage buildings do not exist or that they are not there. So there has to be a selection. And the selection was based because of the limited, let's say, scope of writing a book. We chose 30 scientists with whom we had already interacted in the previous book for the Nobel Dreams of India. And again, I will go back to the Higgs discovery simply because it's, very close to my heart, and also it belongs to the field where I work. When the Higgs boson was discovered, and as I mentioned earlier, there were thousands of people who were part of this, some building the detector, some doing the software, some doing the analysis, some working on machine learning, so there is every possible field that you can imagine, which has stems in physics, chemistry, and biology. And for the discovery, of course, there is a team from India, which is called CMS, that's my experiment, compact muon solenoid, CMS, that was also responsible. So imagine about 100 scientists from India, students and faculty, they are also responsible and a part of the Higgs boson discovery. So highlighting their work and highlighting scientists, you have to somehow showcase how the Higgs boson was discovered. Out of the 5,000 scientists, some are from India, and you need to showcase that in a book that is digestible for the student. So indeed, the idea really was to have some geniuses, and this is certainly a sample, I would say, but it harnesses really the scientific, technological, and academic collaborations, not only in India, but also internationally, so that we are able to showcase to the student how proceeding in this field, if you are interested in science, to go to national and international partnerships. And that would somehow, hopefully, have a movement towards sustained development goals for our country and, of course, for the planet. So education and schooling, research and engineering, innovation, economic growth, everything comes together. And that was really a very holistic idea of showcasing a few selected geniuses in the book.
Okay. So now from the nitty-gritty, the complicated, collaboration of science and so on, let me ask you, the spirit, the romance of scientific research, which our students must know, the pleasure of journeying to the uncharted courses. Like Ghalib has said, क्या फर्ज है सबको मिले एक सा जवाब, आओ ना हम भी सैर करें कोहे तूर की. Kohe Tur being the Mount Sinai where Moses encountered the divine light. So what he's saying is, maybe I'll get some other answer if I go to Mount Sinai and encounter the divine light. What I'm trying to ask you here is, during the course of writing this book, during the course of interacting with scientists, you must have met many people with similar spirit and ambitions, and it must have been very pleasant meeting them. Would you like to recount some of those pleasant surprises, if I may call them that?
Well, it was indeed extremely, how can I say, exciting, invigorating, and a learning experience for me as well. Because, treading outside from my own comfort zone of physics, moving into a field which is less known for me, like chemistry and biology. And as we mentioned earlier, that now we have biochemistry, and we have microbiology as well. So the categorization or the boundaries are very blurred. Science is more global, and really it's a necessary condition for global evolution. And what surprises came out were amazing, I would say. Met with so many wonderful scientists of our country. And I might want to mention a couple of them. A young lady who is a young mother, in fact, and she has been working on the science of sleep, on how the brains work when we are sleeping. And it was so beautiful, because we have done this book by doing interviews like the one today, early morning here in Geneva, because my co-author is in Canada. So we scheduled it such that, we could meet at we could meet scientists in India at an earthly hour. So I would get up a bit early, Spurti would stay up a bit late, and we would then speak to the scientists. And so many wonderful experiences have come out. We learned about sleep. We learned about big future for computational neuroscience that Professor Chakravarti has been dreaming. We have seen how mathematics is being used in biology, and it was really exhilarating, in fact. There was another one, Kiru Bakaran, who found a mind-blowing email one day where a Nobel laureate wrote to her saying that it was great to learn about your fascinating research. I hope that one day, without having to drink H. pylori, that's the bacteria in your gut, you will receive the Nobel Prize, because they had to do that to demonstrate the infections of H. pylori in your gut. And she obviously had goosebumps, and we had goosebumps when we were talking to her. So there were several of these moments, we've had, and I think they are very precious memories that are associated with our geniuses in India.
Wonderful.
If I can just add that she said that she dreams of hearing about her Nobel Prize at an A to B outlet where she's enjoying a masala dosa. So let's see.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. So fortunately, all these platforms as yet offer me to go a little lyrical, apart from some engineering small talk. I'll take you to the Merchant of Venice. And you would remember Portia saying, if to do were as easy as to know what were good to do, chapels had been churches and poor man's cottages, princesses' palaces. Well, we all seem to know what is good to do to further the interest of science in the country. So I'm sure, but it's not just about some dreamy lost scientists working in a lab day and night. It has to be collaborative. It has to be supported by infrastructure, facilities. So what is good to do is important. apart from knowing it. So what do you think India should spend more on funding and science R&D? What do you think are the bottlenecks today to further the interests of science and knowledge, which would help other professions?
Thank you, Sudhanshu, for this question, which is a very, let's say, loaded question. India, as such, is really doing extremely well in terms of being now at the cusp or the inflection point of where we can really accelerate exponentially what we are doing in science R&D. Because first of all, the awareness of the connection between science and progress is now trickling down to the last mile. Even the rural farmer, he knows my children should study science. It will be useful in whichever way possible, even if it were to increase his yield in the farm. So that's number one. And with the internet, again, how did the internet come about? I'm sure everybody knows that the www was invented at CERN. And it came not because somebody was inventing the www, it was because we were doing particle physics and we wanted to share data with the world. So the connect between science and society is becoming more and more obvious. Mobile phones in your pockets or GPS on your cars, anywhere you go, hospitals, airports, we need technology. And technology, as you rightly said, comes from science. So yes, global spending on R&D is now a record high. And India is pushing hard as well, given the priorities in the country, given the infrastructure in the country, which of course we need to improve as well. We need to surpass residual prejudices as well. It's imperative that we need science discussions. We need openness for just getting a public discourse in science. And that's what the book is about. In fact, it's not about me dreaming up of, giving a hierarchy to scientists, not at all. It's my humble attempt as an Indian to showcase, look, people are doing stellar work in the country, and we need to facilitate them with funding. So the total spending in the world is about 1.7 trillion, and about 10 countries account for 80% of this spending. So these countries, as part of the Sustained Development Goals, they need to substantially, they have already pledged to increase public and private R&D spending, as well as the number of researchers. So imagine we are in India and we are, of course, also trying to do the same, but then we need to look at our statistics on our moments already that are happening and our goals. I mean, the Prime Minister said Jai Anusandhan, and my ears were like listening to music. If you remember from the ramparts of the Red Fort on the 15th of August. So Jai Vigyan, Jai Anusandhan is now, it's a, call for the country to become a science, technology, innovation, economic global powerhouse. And it can only happen when we bring life and improvement of quality of life to the last user. And I think R&D in the right way, which is happening as well, we are going to be spending much more than in the past. Here I might mention science is really a community responsibility as well. It's only in our constitution it says that every citizen has a social science responsibility. So I think that it's not only the scientist, not only the teacher, it's every person who needs to come along to this imperative of Jai Vigyan, Jai Anusandhan, and be part of this global enterprise that necessitates innovation, that leads to economic growth, and that can happen only with science, which means physics, chemistry, and biology at the school. And I think everything is connected and it starts from there.
Okay, so now from the nitty-gritty of collaboration and it being a community responsibility and so on, what arises from there is, of course, the matter of communicating. So Bill Maher once said that it's very hard not to be condescending when you are explaining something to an idiot. Well, I'm not running down myself or all the audience. So we are not idiots, but we are somewhat know-nots. So you need to take steps to bridge the gap between the know-it and the know-nots as far as science communication is concerned, given that with internet literacy, opportunities are exceptional. So are we leveraging it this? I'm sure we are. So we would need to learn about that because and how we can improve it. How it is more important in the Indian context. So in respect of science communication, I see that you teamed up with Spurti, who's a science communicator. So you already are kind of have taken note of this, and you have written this book with her. So how let's speak a little bit more about this communication and how did you tackle it. This is my second last question, and then I'll have one more question. That's it.
So you see, each one of us is a communicator, and I certainly do not mean to demean anybody or position myself in the position that you did, which I think is humbling, all right, but nevertheless, there's miles to go, miles to learn, and lots to do. I see science communication as another career option for our young students too, for our every researcher in the country or every teacher who they are already doing a lot. However, linking that to part of the responsibility and part of the duty of whatever science that you are doing must be communicated as well, which I see here in Europe. I see in the United States that every faculty has to spend 10 to 15% of their time in communicating whatever they are doing. What I see in India is a dramatic rise in in how science is being communicated. You have also heard about the Nobel laureates Kip Thorne and Barry Barish. They were given Nobel Prizes for the gravitational wave. You have certainly seen the beautiful pictures of the black holes that were all over the newspapers in 2017, 2015, 16, 17. And then the Nobel Prize was given in 2017, of course. That triggered the imagination of the youth. I mean, astronomy is such a wonderful and a romantic science, if I can say so. And students really connected. I have been, I'm working in particle physics, but I'm fascinated by astronomy too. And there are so many students working in that field. So without being in the profession of being a science communicator, I think that sharing with students or particularly students who may or may not have the ability to learn about big science in a very simple way, because there is an excitement and palpable excitement in what science can do for us, for myself, for the society, for the country. And I think that students absolutely want to do something. I mean, there has never been a time when I've interacted with any student, and I've interacted with many, many students, that I do not see this light in their eyes of wanting to do something which can make a difference. So science communicators really have this onus on them to feed to this fire that they have and the desire that they have to make a difference. And I think that science is a beautiful tool that can be used, and communication needs to be done. I do not know when I became a science communicator, because already starting from the year 2001, I think when I went to India, I was just invited to a school to come and speak to the students. And I didn't even know that that was called a career as well, science communication, but I just started doing that. So I feel that by bringing our experience, your experience, Sudhanshu, I'm sure you experience the same, that when you bring your science and technology to any strata of the society, they all have this magic of learning about Train 18. And it's the same thing that I feel when I speak about the Higgs boson, we speak about science, technology, the Large Hadron Collider, and of course the social benefits derived in every single day from science. So I think, yes, science communication is extremely essential, and we should align itself to our priorities, national priorities, and of course the planet's priorities that are the Sustained Development Goals.
All right. So from this desire, this fire that you talked about, so you have a lot of young minds who would carry the science dream of India forward. And let us conclude by telling them what is your heartfelt message to them, Dr. Archana.
My message would be that we have to commit to moving ahead. Now, which is the direction we have to move ahead? We need to look at global development goals and how they relate to our country, and how we want to commit that we should leave the world a better place than we found it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Archana Sharma. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I now hand over the proceedings to Vinita ji for taking it further.
Thanks a lot, Archana ji and Sudhanshu ji, but I would love to see Nishtha speaking.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. So before I start with the audience, or before I put up a question from the audience, we have someone, a very young writer among our energetic audience, to express her own pleasure and delight of reading books and being with books. Himanshi from Vidyagan Bulandshahr, the stage is open to hear you.
So yeah, hello everyone. So I believe that blank seat prompted me to let my emotion flow down the lane of happiness and sadness lying on the way. Wrapped my soul tightly around me. You know, I went deeper and felt myself moving inside my inner core and realized that I got someone who can listen to the untold stories lying in a deserted heart. It was the same day when I realized that I was not a child of 10 months, but a student of 10 years who had taken her first step towards the world, leaving the identity of her sole existence, my parents. I got admitted to a strange place and they termed it as a hostel. Even before nobody told me how loud the sound of silence is, I felt like I could hear everything and nothing at the same time. To distract myself from the loneliness among the crowd, the first time I chose a sheet to pen down my feelings in the combination of 26 letters. In the zone of being half awake and half asleep, I found satisfaction to hold myself when no one was there. And it led me to cross miles of distance, and that's how I entered in the world of writing. As a writer, I believe that books give a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and life to everything. Audience, has it ever happened to you that you went to a library to issue a book, but when it's time to go back, you just cannot? I don't know about you all, but this often happens to me. I'm the kind of a girl who fantasizes about being trapped in a library. And but I was not always like this. From famous five to Pride Prejudice, from the twist to a tale of two cities, it has been a long way. And I've grown with each and every moment of this journey. I have become a better version of myself as I gained knowledge and self confidence. Moreover, it has changed my perspective towards life and myself. In such a busy schedule, I still somehow manage to find time to read, whether it is before yoga or between the classes. Even if I can only read one page, it gives me immense satisfaction. And I've realized that books are the best teachers, best coaches, and the best guide at each and every phase of life. To conclude, I would like to say that they can actually make you come out of the darkest sides when you say education is a movement from dark to light, The books are actually the rays, the beams of that light. Thank you, everyone.
Over to you, Nista. Are you going to speak?
Thank you much, Himanshi. It just
There is some audio problem from your side.
amazing.
So can I complete your words, because I have your sheet which you prepared at night. Gulfam sir, can you take it over? I think Nista has some problem. So thank you very much, Deepika, and it was wonderful to listen from you. What an amazing person you are. We would love to meet you when Archana ji comes, and when Sudhanshu ji comes, we would love to meet you. The same time, Archana ji, we have with us Principal Vidyagyan Bulan sir, another avid physics person, and this is Minambika Menon, who was earlier working with me, my colleague. So over to you, Minambika ma'am. Would you love to share your views on this?
Thank you so much, Vinita. Thank you so much. That was wonderful, Priyanshi. That was Priyanshi. Yeah. So wonderful words from her. And thank you, Archana ji. Thank you, Sudhanshu ji. Archana ji, I know you from the beginning when we met in Shivnadar School, Noida. Yeah. And since then, I'm so inspired and I'm so in awe with the kind of passion you have, the enthusiasm you have for, the work, bringing science to the grassroots level. I'm so happy and fortunate to hear from you again. And Sudhanshu ji, thank you for putting the questions in such a way that, we could taste the joy she had while writing. A bit of that taste we also got. So thank you so much, Archana ji, and we are looking forward, and I'm in awe with your passion to, whatever work you are doing in the field, bringing research to the ground level. And seriously, I don't have words to express my gratitude. And thank you, Vinita, for making us a part of it. And the Vidyag and Bulandshahr children are really happy and glad they have held this very well. Thank you, students. Thank you, Banerjee sir also. Sudhanshu ji, I have a question for you. I really enjoyed Ramdhari Singh's lines and Ghalib's was in your baritone. So how this interest, being an engineer, how will you explain this interest towards Shairi?
Well, very simple, very simple. I had no formal education in either Urdu or English literature. But as an engineer, you are taught that 2 plus 2 is 4. But in real life, you realize that 2 plus 2 could be 3 or 2 plus 2 could be 5.
Or 22.
And when you visit museums or when you read a complicated literary book, which you make an attempt to, you realize that as an engineer, you are lacking. So you have to train yourself. जिसको कहते हैं कोई तालीम या तरबियत आपकी जिस चाह नहीं भी हुई है, पर वो आप अपने को खुद दे सकते हैं. And it is only to further myself as a human being that I took some interest in literature, and that's all, nothing more than that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vinita. I really enjoyed this session. And thank you, Archana ji. Thank you.
So before probably we are to the end of the session, Sudhanshu ji, I will just like to share my experience. I traveled in Vande Bharat train, and I was really thrilled to constantly see the train running at a speed of 133 and 134 kilometers per hour on a long journey, and without any jerk when it starts or when it stops and when it accelerates. So that was a thrilling experience. Thank you giving us that. And Dr. Sharma, it's one question which comes to my mind, and again, it is very contextual, is that during this pandemic, we faced huge challenges, especially our students, because of their background being in villages, and the internet facility was not there, the gadgets they didn't have. And I strongly felt that this is the time probably internet should be made available to everyone. Government need to do something. If digital is the way to go forward, then government probably need to seriously think about it, and where the masses are there, that the the availability of the internet, low cost internet, and at the same time the low cost gadgets in terms of mobiles and all that. Any thoughts on that?
I thank you for the question. I do believe, I must say, that during the pandemic, people in India have, grown up suddenly because of all of us, in fact, not only in India. I mean, it's here also, we were totally, closed inside our houses for nearly 2 years. So without the prognosis of how things will be in the future. So that was a difficult time for the world, difficult time also for India, and education in particular, because students could not come to, and there were certainly the differences between students who could work at home and study and the student who could not. So I do fully empathize with this situation, and as a solution, it's very hard to understand that, because COVID came as a bolt from the blue. Nobody knew what's coming, right? So nobody could foresee solutions like having communal areas where students could come together, and we could not come together. So I do not think that we can a posteriori, of course, find solutions, but availability of the internet is certainly nearly a human right now, because there is a digital divide that could potentially happen. And we as Indians have an edge, because our country, at least in the post-colonial world, we have English as a connecting, language in the whole country. So creating software is our forte, and India is well known in the whole world for that. So creating solutions is also our forte. Now we have moved on from the jugaad into real production. So it's a post-jugaad world now. So we do not have, the things that could work today and not work tomorrow. So we are moving from let's say, quality controlled jugaad. So I certainly there should be investment in infrastructure, because only then we can make a meaningful difference to the lives of students and societies that do not have those kind of facilities and infrastructure. And whatever in my humble capacity I can, I will do. Bulandshahr is very close to my heart. It's very close to my homeland, तो जन्म भूमि तो वही है मेरी, और जो भी कुछ कर्म भूमि में सीख रही हूँ, मैं उसको भी जो मैं दे सकूंगी वो मेरी ही privilege होगी ये करने के लिए. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinita ji.
It's Archana.
Thank you, Dr. Archana. Thank you.
Ji.
At last, but not the least, Rita ma'am, it would be great if we could have your views on the session.
More than views, I would love to announce one thing, because students are viewing in class and also on YouTube. Obviously, I'll send circular also. We are going to host a quiz based on this book, because we want children to read this book, India's Science Genius. So probably in the month of December, Minambika ma'am, I'll discuss with you, and let every child read book and feel pride about, about what feel proud about what our scientists are from India. So we will have quiz on this book. It means if children read this book, they will at least start, going back to the roots and valuing our own science people. So the quiz will be only on this book. So children will know that the questions are coming from this book. They will read 2-3 times. And obviously reading will help them. So this was just an idea I floated. So LifeLab Plus will host this quiz very soon. We'll discuss with all principal and share the circular. Thank you. And I'm not going to give any view, because there are no words. This is something very close. This session was very close to our heart, because many times we speak about science, the God particle, this, that, but at the same time those things are important. But nowadays this book reading habit is, I don't know, slowly going away, which is not good. So maybe we will have more session on this. Maybe some children will lead it, maybe Priyansi will lead it. So thank you everyone. Thanks Gulfam sir a lot for coordinating and doing all this. Thank you, children. You were very special the way you hosted. This is the book, India Science Genius, all 5 campuses. I will circulate message, and the winner will Archana ji would love to listen from you. The winner, one winner will.
Well, I think books will be distributed to the participants,
Yeah.
and I hope to announce that the winner can come to CERN and spend a week with me.
Yay.
Great.
That's a treat. So we'll fix up a date and we'll let you know. Thank you.
Thanks,
We all
all.
look
Thanks,
forward.
everybody.
We all look forward.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Bilfarm sir.
To
Thank you,
conclude, I would
Vishwajit.
say
Yes. Okay, go
books
ahead.
are the plane, the train, and the road. They are the destination and the journey they are home. With this, we thank our speakers and our dear and diligent Colonel Gopal Karunakaran, Mrs. Shashi Banerjee, Mr. Bishwajit Banerjee, Principal Mrs. Minamika Menon, and Vinita Ma'am for devoting their precious time in developing the young minds as ours. The session was really gleaning and acquiring. We hope our audience too enjoyed it thoroughly and we could achieve our goal of understanding why books, hearing from the eminent personalities present. We thank everyone for being so curious and eager. We would further extend our thanks to the team Career Years for providing such a great opportunity. Now, if there's no objection, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. All the best and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.